Well, this is Aloha Sunday, and on every Aloha Sunday, we always speak to an ancient Hawaiian proverb. These proverbs were collected together in a wonderful book called Alelo Noe'au, written by Dr. Mary Kavinapukui. The book is a collection of wisdom sayings from the Hawaiian people. And we like to do that because it finds that place in Hawaiian spirituality where the things that we believe and we know as spiritual truths can come together. And in that way, we can connect with the people of this land and the land itself. And that is a beautiful experience. The phrase we're looking at today is this one. Ulili alualu hu'akai. Ulili is the name of a bird. It's a Hawaiian bird. It's not a Hawaiian bird. It's called the western tattler, or you may know it by a more common name as a sandpiper. If you've been on the beach, undoubtedly you've seen these birds. They run along the sand and they're chasing the waves as they come in. Alualu is a word that means to chase and to run around rather frenetically. Hua is foam, the bubbling foam which you see when the waves come in on the sand, and kai, of course, is the sea. So the literal translation is the wandering sea tattler that chases after sea foam. It is profound, you just don't know it yet. The ulili is a very famous bird. It's written about in a lot of songs, and it makes that sound. Sometimes the Hawaiians say, ulilie, ulilie, when you hear a sandpiper. And so they wrote a song called, and you may know it. If you do, sing along. Honi ana kole ue ulilie, ikahi manu no ai kai, kia e makalai a o ke kaha, o ia kai uelana malie. Here's your part. Ulilie. Ulili hoi, ulili holo holo kakaiye, o ia kai uelana malie. Ulili holo holo kakaiye, o ia kai uelana malie. O ia kai uelana malie. O ia kai uelana malie. Clap for the good stuff when we get to it. Okay, it'll come. So the ulilie is a very common bird. So this phrase is really kind of talking about a person who runs here and there for trivial things. Somebody who's just frenetic. You may not know anyone like that. I know one very intensely personal. In fact, when I was a young child, my mother, who was in the Midwest, had this common thing she used to say to me. She'd say, honey, you got too many irons in the fire. That was before they knew what ADD was, and that was kind of the homespun definition of ADD, one who has too many irons in the fire. It meant that basically that I had all these little projects going on like this and was like a sandpiper running from one to another, chasing after sea foam. Now, if you've been on the beach, you know that when the waves come in and there's this foam, it disappears in the sand. You've seen that, right? Where does it go? Back to the sea again, right? And here's this little bird that's chasing it all the time. Well, this is a very profound saying, actually. When it talks about people who are constantly chasing after these things that are sort of disappearing and going back into the great one again. But they're chasing the sea foam and going after that again. Now, it's kind of almost a negative saying. It's almost that. But behind every negative saying is a positive truth. And I believe the positive truth tells us this. It says, please pay attention to what is important. And don't go chasing after the sea foam. Pay attention to the things that are permanent and real and not the other things. Now that's a pretty profound spiritual truth. In fact, Jesus in his great Sermon on the Mount said it this way: the place where your treasure is the place you will most want to be and end up being. I love that. This is from a Message translation of the Bible, and it's so profoundly true. Now, the great treasure that we have to give to anything is our energy, our concentration, our focus, our consciousness. So where that consciousness and energy and focus is, that is where we want to be, and that is where we will be. So if we're focusing on the sea foam that is going to disappear in just a moment, then guess what? We're going to be stuck in the sand going, what happened? Oh, there it is. And we'll run over there and we'll catch that one. Oh, Where do you go? And it's like, it's not a very intelligent way to live. And I think that the secret that all spiritual teachers want to tell us is happiness, peace, love, constant joy, and that divine presence of God is found in the permanent and real things of life, not the transient, sea foamy kind of things. You understand? So that's a very profound truth. Jesus talked more about it in a wonderful story that he told, and you probably all know this story. It's found in the book of Luke in the 10th chapter. He and his disciples were traveling, and it says, as they continued their travel, Jesus entered a village. A woman by the name of Martha welcomed him, and she made him feel at home. She had a sister, Mary, who sat before the master, hanging on every word he said. But Martha was pulled away by all she had to do in the kitchen. Later, she stepped in, interrupting them. Master, don't you care that my sister has abandoned the kitchen to me? Tell her to lend me a hand. And the master said, Martha, dear Martha, you're fussing far too much and getting yourself worked up over nothing. One thing is essential, and Mary has chosen it. It's the main course, and it will not be taken from her. Whoa. See, the confusing part is Martha was doing something good. Here she had Jesus there, so she's going in the kitchen, and she is fixing food, and she wants to make him feel welcome. And that is the great deception. Sometimes we can get lost and to think we're doing really good things, but we're missing the point. And it's a difficult thing for us to know what the point is, because sometimes those sea foams look so real. Any surfer will tell you when they catch these big waves, they are real. But the wave comes and it crashes on the shore and it disappears, and where does it go? Back to the sea. So there's only one thing that is real and permanent and ultimate in all of those metaphors, and that is the sea. It takes many forms, but it's always the sea. This interesting dilemma is called the power of discrimination. It's called being able to discriminate. In Sanskrit, it's called viveka. And one of the greatest definitions of discrimination is given by Sri Swami Satchidananda when he said, discrimination means you can distinguish between the real and the unreal, the permanent and the impermanent. Because, see, here's the thing, folks. Our real happiness and joy is going to be found in the permanent things. So when Jesus said, where you put your mind and your energy, your treasure, that's where you want to be, the suggestion is we should put it on the permanent things and not the impermanent things. But how do you know? And it's a difficult thing because form is always changing. Form is just the way that energy of God decides to appear. It's just the way the ocean is manifesting itself as either a big wave, as the tide, as a tsunami, as anything. It's just the form that it's taking. Here's an example. Here's a piece of wood, and it's a special kind of piece of wood, but for some people it may represent all kinds of things. It may represent trees. It represents the potential of lumber for building a home. It may represent all kinds of things, but this is the particular form that the energy of life has taken. And a lot of people get very attached to this, and they do whole foundations to save forests, or they grow forests. They do different things. So there's all this stuff and this energy we can build around the form itself. We can also spiritualize this form, because for some people this is called a rain stick, and when you turn it up, can you hear that? So some people think, oh, what a beautiful sound of meditation and peace and beauty that is. But all of those things that we have assigned to this form came from one place: us. It all came from us. We're the ones that decided. Now, this piece of wood can change form again. We can create something else out of it. We can take it and we can make paper out of it. And then you can do all kinds of things with paper, can't you? I mean, you take that wood, you make paper out of it. You can make a bulletin for church out of it. You could file your divorce papers on this. You could use it to print up a lease to buy property. Or you can make it into a journal to record your life in. I mean, the form could be all kinds of things. We could take all of this paper form, and then we can bind it all up together, and we could make a book. Now, I purposely covered this book because I didn't want to tell you what kind of book this is, because we make all kinds of books. For all you know, this could be a collection of 1989 Playboy magazines all put together. Or it could be a phone book, or it could be the Quran, or it could be the Bible. It could be just a book of poetry. It could be anything. We can assign to that form any of these things, and then we can say, wow, that's really powerful. We can get attached to this form. We can get attached to the things that we print on this form. We can get attached to them bound together as a book. But even this will change form. I could take this, open it up, take a breath. I hope that wasn't the Bible. I can take this form and this magic piece of thing here, and I can take this form, and now I'm changing it form again. Now, it's putting off a lot of energy. All of the energy from hundreds and thousands of years that are bound up in those carbon atoms are now being released as a different form of energy. But it's all bound up as that. Now I can actually feel that energy that's booming out of there. And oh my gosh, you can smell it. And it's changed form again. And you may say, oh, what a shame. Now it's worthless. Or, if you wanted, on the Wednesday before Easter, I could take that form and put it on my forehead. And I have a very spiritual symbol from that form. Even the ash we can make as holy. I'm going to take it off because I don't want you to get distracted. A little bit more. Ralph's my makeup artist. I think the point I want to make to you, all know Bill Nye, the science guy. Well, I'm Rev Sky, the spiritual guy. And the point I wanted to make to you with this is that we can get very attached to the external forms, which can change all the time. But it's not just all these things in life that we see that change all the time. It's not just the things. It can be us too. Look at this cute little guy. Ah, little drool. Oh, look at him. He's so cute. 15 years later, look what happened. Oh, what a nerd. 15 years later again. Oh, hey. Now wait, let's go back and look at that guy. There. 15. Let's add another 15 years. Whoops. Looking a little mature and serious there. We add another 15 or 20 years. Uh-oh. Let's add another 20 years. Oh, my God. So here's the question. What happened between here and here? The form changed, didn't it? Changed a lot. But the thing that's inside is the same. That energy that is created there is part of the same. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, I am the source of everything. The wise understand this and worship me with love. That God is the source and that beautiful energy. And it's not just the Bhagavad Gita. The Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to Colossians, he said, we look at this sun and we see the God who cannot be seen. We look at this sun and we see God's original purpose for everything that was created. For everything. Absolutely everything. Above and below, visible and invisible, rank and rank and rank upon angels. Everything got started in God and finds its purpose in Him. He was there before any of it ever came into existence and holds it all together right up to this moment. You see, that's the impermanent. The challenge is for us to be able to look at all these things and to look at each other in whatever stage of life we're in, whether we're the infant, whether we're middle-aged, whether we're older, and to see the permanent in that. And that permanent is this amazing energy of God that is in all things. Because when we see it, when we put our energy and direction into it, the promise is that is where we will be. See? And I want you to be in that place. The Bhagavad Gita says that deep in the hearts of all there is a light of all lights, forever beyond darkness. This is wisdom, the goal of all knowledge and what is to be known. Know this to be the absolute Brahman. They're saying that this absolute Brahman, which is their language for what we call God, is in all people. It is a light that brings us wisdom. So if you're wondering, how can I see God in this? The answer is there is a light in you that will show you. If you're wondering, how can I see God in some of these people that I meet? The answer is, the light is in you to show you those things. Mother Teresa, when she was asked, how can you minister to these horrible leper diseased people? She said, in every face I see the face of Christ. Meister Eckhart, that great 14th century mystic, said, in every face I see the face of Christ. That is the gift, to see that, because then that is where we'll be. And you say, well, that's great, but how do you do that? You know the answer to this. It's the answer I make you say for every question. And the answer is prayer and meditation. There you go. Prayer and meditation. You're going, what does it mean, prayer? Meditation is the way we connect with this light. It is the way that we find that light where we find how to see God in everything. A lot of people believe that Jesus went to India somewhere between his 12th birthday and his 30th year. There's movies about it. There's been a lot of research about it. I tend to agree with that for a couple of reasons. First reason is that Jesus came back into his ministry with teachings that were so foreign from the teachings that he grew up in that Jewish culture. It's kind of hard to imagine where they came from if they didn't come from a deeper knowing place that he would have found in India. And the other thing is that in the Hindu tradition, when people teach about meditation, they teach that ultimately you go in and you begin to see the world through what they call the third eye. It is a place right here in your forehead. It's connected to this chakra that sees the world in a different place. It's a meditation thing. It's very common. It's not only in Hinduism, it's in many other cultures as well, too, where you close the outer eyes where we're so attached to the form, and we open another eye, one eye in the center of your forehead that's connected to a seeing place. Jesus said something that I don't believe people have been really clearly able to explain to me. But if you imagine that Jesus went to India and he learned these truths, then all of a sudden, this scripture makes amazing sense when Jesus said, the lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. How can you have a single eye unless it's that one eye that comes from there? That's where we find, I believe, in the process of meditation, the ability to see God in everything. So that's your mantra that I'm going to encourage you to speak as you go into meditation this week. I want you to say it out loud with me. Let's speak it together. I see God in everything. Good. Now you can practice this as a wakeful practice too. As you walk down the street and you see some people arguing on the corner, then instead of getting all nervous and excited, you can say, I see God in everything. When you get news this week that you have to pay half of your medical insurance and you didn't used to, and that's not a very happy thought, you can say, I see God in everything. When you have a fight with that beloved one because they've done that thing that you agreed upon they would never do again, and they did it, You can look at them with your eyes and you can say, I see God in everything. It's perfectly okay to say it with clenched teeth. Let's try it that way. I see God in everything, as long as the truth gets in. It will change your life. Because you see, the way you see is where your treasure is. And if you want to see and be with God all the time, then we claim to see it and be it always. We're going to have a time of meditation, and we have a friend, Shen, who's going to play the Hawaiian nose flute for us in that meditation. He told me something earlier that I think is profound. The nose flute has 3 holes in it because the Hawaiians believe that the amazing importance of the relationship with God, the relationship with others, and the relationship with ourselves. So even as you look in a mirror at the end of the day, and you see all of those flaws that are so obvious to you, you can say, I see God in everything. Will you close your eyes with me for a moment, please? This beautiful sound calls us to a sacred place. It calls us to that place inside ourselves where we and God meet. And any thought that comes up, you can simply say, I see God in you. And before long, you will. And when you see God, you will have peace. And you will be filled with light. In these quiet moments, connect with that divine presence in you and see God in everything. As we come together now in the sacred and holy silence.